I swear these better look nice on paper. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. And I'm quite partial to making my own art materials. I've made ink from grapes, I've made my own acrylic paint. Acrylic paint was actually really hard to make and it didn't go particularly well. Where the hell's that yellow come from? So today I thought I would try my hand at making watercolour paint from scratch. And I have a feeling this might potentially go a little bit better than making acrylic paint. Mainly because I've bought the correct ingredients and tools this time, rather than trying to half-ass it like I normally do.
Makes a change.
So fingers crossed, we'll get some nice watercolours today. Okay, so I've bought an absolute ton of different coloured powdered pigments. And when I say a ton, I literally mean I have bought so many different kinds and different colours. And one thing I will say is if you're wanting to make your own paint and stuff and you think it might be a cheaper alternative, I don't think it is. It is so expensive buying raw materials to make paint. I've never known anything like it, like a little tub of just regular pigment plus an arm and a leg. And this stupid thing, I don't know whether you remember or whether you watched when I made the acrylic paint and I said I wasn't going to buy one of these because it was too expensive. Well, I bought one and it's ridiculously expensive. I think I bought the cheaper one and I think it was about £20 just for like a little bit of glass. But bigger ones are like 40, 60, 80 quid. And then I also bought this, which is literally just a piece of glass. I don't think there's anything fancy about it. And I think this ended up costing me about £20.
Give me your money.
So already I'm feeling a little bit of heartache for this video because my bank balance just took an absolute beating. So this better work out. I swear it better work out. Right, so basically the concept of making watercolour paint seems very easy actually. And we're going to start off with making a base which you would add to raw pigment and then basically I think you just let it dry and set and stuff. So I'm going to need a glass jar or a glass bottle. You're also going to need some of this stuff, some gum arabic solution, and a little bit of a science lesson. Apparently this is a water soluble gum which is extracted from the acrylic tree? I don't know how to pronounce it. And it acts as the glue and binds the pigments together. And apparently you can buy this pre-made, which I've done, or you can make it yourself by dissolving gum arabic pieces in distilled water. But that sounded like a bit too much effort for me. So I'm gonna want 60 milliliters of this, which is exactly 60 milliliters. And I'm just gonna pour it into here. Oh, honestly that smells kind of nice. I could eat that. I don't know whether I'm allowed to, but it smells like edible. It smells sweet. Yum. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm constantly thinking about food. In that goes. And then also, you can either use honey, glycerin, or a combination of honey and glycerin. And I'm just going to use glycerin for this. And I'm going to want 2 teaspoons of it. I'm just using a regular vegetable glycerin. I have researched what I'm doing, but you know what I'm like, and I do tend to kind of skim things and stuff, so always do your own research if this doesn't pan out. What does this do? I can't remember. So apparently the glycerin and the honey, they act as binders and they bind the pigments together too, as well as, what is the Arabic a binder as well? Yeah, binds the pigments, so it's just all binding pigments together. Alright, tell you what, I'll just give this a mix with my painting knife. Okay, and that's all I need in that. Apparently, you are supposed to add 1 drop of clove oil, which I think, or I thought, I had in the studio, which is why I didn't buy any. And I can't find it anywhere. I'm sure I've got some clove oil somewhere, and you need 1 drop of this in here to prevent it going mouldy. But I think because I haven't put honey in this, I don't think it's going to go mouldy. So use a drop of clove oil if you want to avoid mouldy paint, but I thought I had it and I don't. Oh my god, it says here after around 30 minutes of mulling, which is grinding the pigment together, I was happy with the result. 30 minutes? Oh my god, I don't think so. Mine's not going to be a 30-minute process. I know that for a fact. Okay, I feel like I know what I'm doing. So we're going to take our tempered glass palette. I'm just going to give it a bit of a dust with my t-shirt. Shut up. And what colour do I want to make first? I think I'll just stick with the colour itself and then we'll do some mixing. So I'm going for a crimson. So this colour here, beautiful. If you're wondering where I got all these kind of pigments and art materials from, I got it from Jackson's Art Supplies or whatever it's called. If you Google it, you'll find where it is. And I always find they're quite good with like art materials and products and stuff. Not sponsored. And I don't have a link for yours, but just in case you were wondering. I was going to buy the Jackson's Art own official pigments, but a lot of them had sold out, so there's no point. So with making your own watercolour paint, you can kind of measure things out and stuff, but if you're like me, you kind of just want to like eyeball it. I'm just going to tip a little bit of this paint out. And then we're supposed to have a pipette, but I forgot to get a pipette. And I'm pretty sure I'll have one in the studio somewhere, but I can't find anything. So instead, I'm just going to use my spatula and just add some of my mixture into the middle. And apparently it says some pigments will be thirstier than others and some won't. So just kind of figure out what it wants and stuff. And you're just going to kind of want to mix that up a little bit. My God, this pigment's thirsty. Because you basically want to grind this down to a paste. And I have a feeling I might have added too much pigment, but that's okay. And then grab our little glass thing. This is called a muller, I believe. And we're just... Oh! Wasn't expecting that to happen. So maybe go a little bit more gentle. And we're just going to kind of mull this together like that. Oh yeah, okay, I get it. Right, hang on, let's tidy up this mess. Okay, let's get back to this. And you're basically looking for a very smooth kind of paste. Feel free to use your palette knife to kind of scrape things back into the middle and stuff. It's weird because it doesn't feel like there's a lot of liquid in it, but it actually kind of hides in the pigment. There, much more gentle, yes. Okay, I feel like I'm getting my technique down now, and I know what is expected of us, and I know how the kind of pigments and stuff are going to act with the liquid, so it's not as much of a shock now. I do think I'm going to need a bit more liquid, mind, because you have to get it to a very, very fine paste. You know, I was quite shocked when they said that they mulled for like 30 minutes, and it took 30 minutes just to grind their pigment. You know what, I can totally see it. I'm going to have to stand up. And as if I did this last time with a pestle and mortar, no wonder it didn't work. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of people watching this who've made their own watercolour before and are expert watercolour making people, but I've never done it before, so I'm just learning before you comment like something really shitty at us. Oh, dangerous. I don't know how like rough you're supposed to be with it, or whether you're supposed to be quite gentle. I'm wondering, you know, obviously I'm mulling it like this. Can you not just put it in a blender? No. Surely there's an easier way. I know this is obviously the very traditional way, but I don't know, you would have thought someone would have invented a special like watercolour blending machine that you could just stick all the ingredients in and you get like watercolour paint afterwards. I don't know. Maybe it's worth Googling. I think I might be done. There's a little bit of texture in it, but it's not too bad. I think I'm quite happy with that for my first go. That's kind of the texture of it. I think that looks quite nice. It looks more brown on camera, but it's actually very red. So, I've got some little watercolour paint pots, and I'm just going to decanter it into here, like so. Oh my God. Oh, that's so dainty and cute. Ah, you know what? I've made just enough. In fact, I think I made too much. Look at that, how cute. It is so much more red in person. I might have to fix it in editing because it doesn't look red at all on this camera. It looks like brown or something, but it's just a very, very vibrant red. But we'll put this to one side and we're going to move on to another one. I'm also going to wash my hands because they feel really gross and I hope this actually washes out. Okay, so rather than wash all of this and start from scratch, I thought I would use the red and make a different colour, obviously incorporating this red. So I think I'm going to make like a nice, possibly like peachy, orangey yellow colour. So I'm just going to add some of this Indian yellow. Looks beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to stick some of that in. I'm not going to add as much as I did last time because a little goes a long way. Surprisingly, I didn't think it would. This will be the fun part as well because you're actually inventing your own colours and stuff. And I think, sorry, I'm really cold and I've got a runny nose. And I think as well, if you're making your own watercolour paint to either use or sell or anything, maybe actually measure how much of each pigment you're putting in to each recipe so you know how to actually recreate it in the future. I'm just kind of playing, but if you're wanting to take it super seriously, then obviously measure stuff out. And we'll just add a bit of white. This is titanium white. That one there, look at me, I feel like a proper professional showing all the products off. Looks a bit like flour or Coke. We'll start off with that and we'll see how we get on. And I know with like handmade paints and stuff and handmade watercolours, you can add special like shimmers and glitters and stuff inside of it. So not only can you play around with actual colour, you can change the texture and the finish and all sorts. It gives you a lot of appreciation actually for paint, surprisingly enough. And I can imagine if there are any smaller companies out there who make paint, this'll kind of, I don't know, it'll make you realise how much research and stuff goes into it. Even like makeup and stuff. The amount of like research that goes into colour theory and making colours colours and figuring out what materials blend together and what works, I can imagine it takes a long time. Right, I think I'm liking this. I think it might be done actually. Again, I don't feel like it's taken a very long time. Right, let's get this potted. I think it's well mixed. We'll soon find out when I swatch it. Oh, what a cute pink colour. I feel like I've made this one a bit more watery than the last one, but also I feel like this one's a lot more smoother. Looking now, I feel like my red one's a little bit grainy, so I feel like there might be some suspended pigment inside of it, whereas this one, I don't think there is. I think it's just very smooth. Look how cute that is. Honestly, I know it's obviously not edible and stuff, but I kind of want to shove it in my mouth. I don't know why. I think it's because it's like, they just look like little sweets, don't they? Anyway, pink's done. We'll put it to one side. We'll move on to another colour. Okay, so I thought I would start fresh with this one. And I want to try and make a nice teal colour. So I'm going to use a combination of oriental blue, which is this incredibly bright blue colour. I kind of like that on its own. And then also cadmium green, this one here. And this one's a bit more of like a forest green. Very nice. Right, a nice teal colour. Come on. I have faith this is going to be a good one. Okay, I think I'm happy with that one. It's more of like a forest green rather than a teal. And I did try to add a bit more blue to kind of counteract the green, but I think the green was just like really powerful. Still a nice colour though. It's just a very kind of deep, almost like a traditional green. Very saturated. I swear these better look nice on paper. Imagine if I'd spent all this time making my own watercolour paint and in the end they just looked like shit. I'll be proper livid. So there it is up close. A very kind of deep, nice saturated, kind of sage colour, but very drippy and watery, so I'm hoping it'll firm up a little bit. But I like the texture of it, very smooth. We'll put this to one side, we'll move on to another one. Okay, so again, since I've already started with this green, I thought I would just make another one based off this. And I think we'll go for more of like a lime lemon colour. So we'll stick a lot of yellow in here. I want to add a tiny bit of white. And then also, I'm just curious what happens if I add just a smidgen of black. This is a very deep black. It's called vine black. And if you look at that, it's just sucking all the light in. So we won't go overboard. We'll just add a little pinch. Oh, that was too much. Never mind. We'll see what this comes up with. I have a feeling it's going to come up with brown. Okay, I think I'm ready to pop this one up. And before I said I'd made a sage. No, this is like an extra sage. This is very kind of sage green. It's also very smooth and very liquidy. So I'm a little bit worried because I feel like I've added a bit too much liquid, but we'll soon find out. Okay, I'm not going to tip this one because it'll spill absolutely everywhere, but it's a very kind of like a dirty sage, like a dusty, dirty sage. Really nice colour actually. A little bit grey, a little bit on the grey side, but I think that'll be nice. But let's move on to another one. Okay, so next up, I think we'll try and make like a nice yellow. I don't know, like a deep yellow colour. Or do I want like a pasty yellow? This yellow's nice on its own. You know what? I think we'll do a lot of this yellow. You know what? I'm going to add a tiny bit of white just to try and pale it up a little bit. And then hopefully we'll get a bit of a cooler yellow. Right, so let's get mixing and we'll see what we come up with. Okay, I think I'm happy with that colour as well. It's a very kind of, I don't know what you would call that. Maybe it's like a mustard yellow. Surprisingly, adding that little tiny bit of white, it's definitely kind of cooled it down and stopped it being like more orangey. I don't know what I'm trying to think of, like a sandy colour, you know what I mean? This one's a lot thicker, but also in texture, it's very smooth. I feel like I was very good at grinding that for some reason. But there we go, little condiment watercolour paint. Again, another one that I just want to eat. Can't stop thinking about food. Fatty. And again, sticking with the yellow, I'm going to add some cobalt violet, which is this purple colour that's filled very full. Look at that. How nice is that colour? And we're just going to stick some of this in here. I've got it absolutely everywhere. This is a very fine powder. I don't know whether yellow and pink actually go together, but we'll soon find out. Okay, I think I'm done with that one. Feel like I've made a very kind of pumpkin orange and I really enjoy it. It's very wet. It's not as firm as the last one. I feel like I'm definitely adding a lot more of that liquid stuff to help us. I don't know whether I'm supposed to be doing that or not, but it just makes it a lot easier for us. Again, it's very liquidy. I hope to God these are going to dry because otherwise I've just wasted my time, but I can't show you it, but it's very orange. I think it'll be quite a nice colour if it actually sets. So I think I'm just going to stick with the 6 colours that I've made. I've made that very very kind of berry red, a bubblegum pink, a kind of forest green, a sage, a mustard and a pumpkin. And I don't feel like I've been particularly cohesive with the texture of these paints. Some are a bit chunky, some are very smooth, some are very watery, and some are incredibly thick. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, this is all going to work out and I'm going to have some usable, very nice watercolour paint. I feel like I've done everything right this time. So if it all goes wrong, then I honestly don't know what to do. Okay, so it's a new day in the studio and my paints are finally set. And as we can see, they vary in texture. Some of them are a little bit on the kind of gummy and shiny side. Others are a lot more chalky. Some have kind of collapsed and concaved on themselves. And then others have just remained very kind of full and intact. So they're all very different textures, but the colours look nice. And I think as well, that's kind of a given if you're making handmade paint. It's not going to be perfect, is it? Like if obviously it's made in a machine and stuff, but proof's in the pudding. Let's get these swatched, see what they're gonna look like on paper. Right, let's start with this very dry and crispy red paint. This is the first one I made. You know what? That's a really, really nice colour. Are you shitting us? That's really nice. Oh my god. Am I really good at making watercolour paint? No way. Okay, let's get all of these others swatched. I feel a lot more confident in it now. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, these paints are pretty good. If I bought these paints, I'd be pretty chuffed with them. Like, are you absolutely kidding? Look how nice they've turned out. I made these from scratch. You would think I'd bought this. Like, there's some really nice, high pigmented, very saturated watercolour paints. They were very smooth, they were very easy to use. The application was lovely. It wasn't kind of grainy and bitty and stuff. You know what? Making watercolour paint, it isn't too hard. It's not that difficult, actually. I'm quite surprised. I also love my little colour story. It takes a long time to kind of grind everything down and stuff, but I think it's totally worth it. I'm never buying watercolour paint ever again. I'm clearly just gonna make my own from now on. I've got loads of spare materials, so I can literally make a ginormous, like, 100-pan palette if I wanted to. But anyway, that just about does it for today's video. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you've ever been interested in making your own paint, I would 100% start off with watercolour paint. I think it's very, very hard to screw up a watercolour paint, especially if you do it the way I've done it. I still don't know whether the way I've done it is kind of the correct way or whether I've missed anything, but it worked absolutely fine for us. I think if you're going to try and make an acrylic paint, that's where you'll struggle, because I found that very, very hard. I'm tempted to give acrylic paint a second go now that I've got my little glass muller. I think this is very, very important for crushing pigments. I know I tried to kind of half-ass it last time when I made acrylic paint and used a pestle and mortar. I think the only way to do it is something like this on like a proper hard surface, and that way you really, really get the pigment mixed up. But anyway, I'll see you next week for a brand new video. I'm proper in love with this palette. I think if I'd had more time, I would have really enjoyed making some more colours. That's a proper nice little start, isn't it? I think if I was to make this as like a little watercolour palette, it would be kind of like a food palette. What would I name the shades? Cranberry sauce, pink, what's pink? Prawns, lemon, that's been left out a little bit too long. What's green? Ooh, I would say that's kind of like a kiwi. And then maybe it's like the outside of a watermelon. Them names are really shit for a palette of paint. No one would buy them.